Like, whatever, it's a message to all the people out there that whatever their dream is, that they should never give up.
I don't wanna die. I sometimes wish I'd never been born.
At just 7 years old, Angelina Jordan walked barefoot onto the Norway's Got Talent stage, and what unfolded that night is still remembered as one of the most haunting moments in modern talent show history. Viewers expected a child's nervous attempt at a classic, but instead they heard Billie Holiday's Gloomy Sunday, sung with a depth that seemed far too heavy for such a small body. Her voice, smoky and aged, carried pain and elegance like it had lived through generations. And the judges sat frozen as though they were witnessing a ghost channeling its story through a child. The barefoot detail, which many assumed was a gimmick, was revealed later to be a promise Angelina made to honor a homeless girl she once met without shoes, and that vow became her lifelong symbol. The clip spread like wildfire across continents, with headlines calling her an old soul in a child's body, and even the next Amy Winehouse. In less than a week, she had gone from a local child singer to a global phenomenon, and the innocence of her audition became the catalyst for an overwhelming storm of attention that would follow her everywhere. Critics, journalists, and jazz purists all scrambled to explain how a 7-year-old could produce that kind of sound, but no one could find a simple answer, and that mystery itself became part of her legend. Yet behind the applause and viral headlines, the sudden fame carried a weight that few children could ever withstand. Within months, Angelina was being invited to jazz festivals, television specials, interviews, and even international award stages, with industry executives eager to pull her into the global spotlight. What shocked many observers was her composure. While other child stars were swept away by flashing lights and fame, Angelina remained unusually calm, soft-spoken, and deeply grounded, answering questions with a poetic stillness that baffled reporters. She didn't chase the spotlight, yet the spotlight followed her relentlessly. And behind that calm exterior, pressure was quietly mounting. Fans saw the barefoot child with a golden voice, but insiders knew she was now being asked to make decisions most adults would struggle with, let alone a 7-year-old. Each booking, each headline, and each new contract layered more expectations onto her small shoulders. And while the public marveled at her genius, few stopped to ask what the cost might be. Even in those early years, there were whispers that her family was carefully shielding her from the darker corners of the industry. But as her fame snowballed, it became clear that shielding her completely would be impossible. The barefoot vow that began as an act of childhood empathy soon grew into a global symbol, and it gave Angelina a unique identity that separated her from every other prodigy before her. She wasn't just a girl singing jazz standards. She was a child who stood for something deeper, and fans around the world connected to that gesture as much as they did to her voice. Social media exploded with comments about the barefoot wonder, and videos of her performances racked up millions of views, often with captions calling her a reincarnated legend. That act of compassion, performed quietly and without explanation until pressed, resonated with audiences because it turned her into more than a singer. It made her a symbol of humility and conviction in a world obsessed with glamour. Yet as the barefoot performances multiplied, curiosity followed. How long could she carry such an image, and would it one day feel like a burden rather than a badge of honor? The industry watched closely, wondering if this child's vow could survive the weight of contracts, fame, and endless global appearances. Angelina herself rarely explained it in detail, speaking only with a gentle honesty that added to her mystery. But fans were convinced that this promise was not a marketing tactic. It was her truth. And that truth became the very thing that kept her aura untouchable, while quietly setting the stage for even greater challenges ahead. As the buzz surrounding Angelina Jordan reached fever pitch, the music industry began circling like sharks smelling blood in the water, eager to shape her into a product that fit their vision of stardom. Managers, record labels, and producers all wanted to craft her into the next Amy Winehouse, or the child Adele, and yet Angelina herself seemed to resist every attempt at packaging. She was just a child, but her quiet defiance unnerved executives who were used to having complete control over young prodigies. Reporters noted that she never tried to mimic pop stars of her age. Instead, she doubled down on jazz, blues, and soul, often performing barefoot with minimal staging, as if to make a point that her artistry didn't need embellishment. This independence created tension, because while some praised her as authentic and wise beyond her years, others whispered about her being too mysterious, too detached to succeed in mainstream pop. But perhaps it was that very resistance that made her fascinating. Angelina wasn't just performing, she was rewriting the script of what a prodigy could be. And while her label and management plotted her next moves, fans wondered whether she could survive the industry's appetite for control without losing the purity that made her unforgettable in the first place. Then, just as her momentum seemed unstoppable, she began stepping back from the spotlight in ways that puzzled her global fan base. There were stretches of silence when Angelina didn't appear on major stages, didn't release new music, and seemed to vanish into her own world. Rumors began swirling online. Was she quitting? Was her family protecting her from being overexposed? Or was the immense weight of being a prodigy at such a young age finally becoming too much to bear? Fans who had fallen in love with the Barefoot girl worried that she might fade away like so many other child stars before her. Speculation grew as tabloid headlines claimed she had turned down lucrative offers to focus on her education, while others suggested she was quietly working on something bigger. Whatever the truth was, the silence only added to her mystery. And in an era where fame usually thrives on constant visibility, Angelina's ability to disappear and still remain a subject of global fascination spoke volumes about the depth of her impact. For every fan who feared she might have walked away, there were thousands more who held their breath, waiting for the moment she would return and prove she was more than just a childhood memory. That moment arrived in stunning fashion when Angelina Jordan resurfaced years later on America's Got Talent, The Champions. This time she wasn't a wide-eyed 7-year-old but a poised teenager, and when she performed her haunting version of Bohemian Rhapsody, the judges and audience were floored. The performance wasn't just good. It was a declaration that the barefoot child had grown into a full-fledged artist with even greater depth and control. Simon Cowell himself was visibly stunned, praising her as if he were witnessing something timeless unfolding before his eyes. Social media erupted once again, clips of the performance going viral just as they had years before. But now the world saw not just a prodigy, but a young woman coming into her own. For fans, it was a vindication. Proof that the girl they had followed since Norway's Got Talent hadn't disappeared, but had instead returned stronger, more mature, and more determined. The comeback reignited debates about her future. Would she finally embrace mainstream stardom, or would she continue to chart her own unique course? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear. Angelina Jordan's voice had not faded. It had only grown more powerful with time. Yet even as she re-established herself on the global stage, challenges lingered behind the curtain. Fame is rarely kind, and for someone who had carried the burden of being labeled a prodigy since childhood, the expectations only grew heavier. Reports surfaced about disputes with labels over creative control, with whispers that Angelina preferred to focus on jazz and soul, while executives pushed her toward more commercial sounds. Fans debated fiercely online, some arguing that she was being suppressed by an industry unwilling to let her remain authentic, others believing she was being carefully protected from exploitation. What remained constant was her calm demeanor. Angelina never lashed out publicly or engaged in controversy, instead letting her music speak for her. But insiders claimed that the quiet exterior masked a tug-of-war over her career's direction, one that mirrored the struggles of countless artists before her. Would she bend to industry pressure and chase chart success? Or would she continue walking the solitary path she had carved for herself since that first Barefoot audition? The uncertainty only fueled her mystique, keeping her fans both worried and intrigued about what might come next. Today, Angelina Jordan continues to live at the intersection of mystery and artistry. She records selectively, choosing projects that align with her jazz and soul roots rather than chasing the fleeting trends of pop music. Her performances remain, rare but impactful, and she still appears barefoot on stage, a symbol that she has carried with unwavering conviction since childhood. Social media shows glimpses of her life, but unlike most young stars, she doesn't flood the internet with daily updates. Instead, she maintains a carefully measured presence, one that fuels curiosity rather than satisfying it. For her most loyal fans, this restraint only strengthens her allure. Angelina Jordan remains the enigmatic prodigy who defied industry norms, and in many ways, she seems to prefer it that way. Whether on a grand stage or in a small intimate venue, her calm energy and soulful voice still command attention, reminding the world that true artistry doesn't require noise, it requires substance. And in choosing to remain mysterious, she has managed to protect the very essence that made her unforgettable. Of course, with mystery comes speculation, and Angelina Jordan has remained a magnet for rumors about her future. Some reports claim that she is preparing a major comeback album, while others suggest that international tours are being negotiated behind closed doors. Fan theories online range from the belief that she is intentionally avoiding the pitfalls of mainstream fame, to the idea that she is building something so ambitious it requires patience and silence. Her limited public appearances only add fuel to the fire, leaving fans guessing whether each performance will be her last before another long disappearance. What makes the speculation even more fascinating is that Angelina never directly addresses it. She lets the rumors swirl while continuing to quietly refine her craft. In a world where artists often overshare, her silence feels radical, and it leaves fans both frustrated and captivated. If she does have a grand plan, she has executed it masterfully, because by withholding, she has ensured that every whisper of her name carries weight. Looking back, Angelina Jordan's journey reads like a story too dramatic to be fiction. A barefoot child who stunned the world, a prodigy who resisted being molded, a young woman who vanished and re-emerged stronger, and now an artist whose mystery defines her as much as her voice. She has become more than just a singer. She is a symbol of humility, empathy, and resilience, someone who turned a childhood promise into a lifelong identity. And yet, her story feels unfinished, as though the most important chapters are still being written. Will she rise to global superstardom, or will she remain a timeless enigma who values authenticity over fame? That question lingers in the minds of her fans and critics alike, and perhaps that's the point. Angelina Jordan has always thrived on mystery, and in leaving the world guessing, she has ensured that her legend will only grow. For now, one truth remains. The barefoot girl who silenced a nation has not disappeared. She has simply chosen a path few others have the courage to walk.